Hey everybody, today I want to talk about two things. The second thing is the first principles of the Steem-backed monetary system. But before I do that, I have to talk about something else, which is the kind of broad-based edict that seems to be filtering through the Steemit population, which is that rewards for Steem and Steemit-focused content will be less than it may be used to be, which is, by the way, a trend that I am 100% in support of, and I have been for a while actually. I just don't view it as my role to be telling people what type of content they should or shouldn't be making, but that is why I switched or included more content that I believed would appeal to a broader audience. Articles like Competition, Good or Bad, The First Principles of Economics. This was content that I thought was valuable to all kinds of people, not just Steem and Steemit users, and that's why I made it. That being said, I think it's important to point out that there is still a lot of valuable content to be made about Steem and Steemit. I don't believe that all the valuable content about these platforms has been made. And that will be true for years and years to come. It's not my opinion that whales will not upvote high quality content solely because it happens to be about Steemit and Steem. The only reasonable stance to take is that if content is made solely in the hopes that it will automatically receive rewards just because it happens to be about Steem or Steemit, then yes, that should come to an end. If that was ever really the case, by the way, that's assuming that that was ever really the case. No, of course we shouldn't be upvoting content just because it happens to check a certain box. However, if it's quality, it still should be made. And that's a rule that I will continue to follow. That's why today I am making this video, which will be focused towards the Steemit audience and is really only about Steem and Steemit. Not making content solely because you don't believe it will be financially rewarded is just as cynical as making content only because you think it will be rewarded. In other words, in both cases, you're not making the content because you believe it's great, because you're proud of it, because you believe that your audience will gain a lot of value from consuming it. This raises a kind of paradoxical situation where if you want to prove to your audience that you don't just make content because you believe it will be financially rewarded, then what you have to do is you have to make that content. You have to make that content that everybody is saying they won't automatically reward. And that's what today's video is. So, if you find value out of it, reward it. If you don't reward it. That's not why I'm making it. I'm making it because I believe I will be proud of it, and I believe that my audience will acquire value from consuming it, and I hope you do too. So now let's get to it. What I'm going to do is a similar thing that I did. It's a similar exercise that I did in my video, Econ 101, The First Principles of Economics, the Elon Musk method. And what I do is I set myself up with the problem of coming up with the first principles of something, and then I time-lapse my writing of it so that you guys can see the process in action, hopefully enjoy it, and then I'll talk about what comes out, assuming anything good comes out. All right, let's do it. All right, I'm done. Just like the last video, the Econ 101 video, this was really fun for me. I like this exercise. I think it really forces me to hone the foundations of my beliefs. They are beliefs, you know. I'm willing to admit that, you know. We all form our ideologies. We all possess our own ideologies. The question is, are you willing to dig into the roots of your ideologies and make sure that they are consistent, that they are rational, that they are logical, that they are just, that they are compassionate, that they are fair, etc. So here are the first principles of the Steem-backed monetary system that I've come up with. And what I'm not saying is that these are the first principles, just like that was the case for economics. It is entirely possible for your first principles to be different than mine. And I would really love to see yours, to see your first principles, and to see how you come at this, and to see your perspective, even if it leads you to believe that this is a bad system. In fact, especially if it leads you to believe that this is a bad system, because what I want more than anything is to make sure that we fix the mistakes in this system, that we enable it to improve over time, that we do work to improve it over time, make it better, make it serve humanity better. That's what we're here for. This isn't about dogma. This isn't about imposing religious beliefs on somebody else. It's about developing a system that enables human beings to flourish. So without further ado, let's get to the first principles that I came up with. The first one is that Steem is a digital commodity that is designed to back a stable digital currency. And mind you, what I'm trying to do here, what I believe that I've done, is I've strung together a series of words with that have accepted definitions. I believe that I'm using very reasonable definitions for each one of these words, and then stringing them together in logically consistent and grammatically correct ways so as to come to a reasonable and rational conclusion. So if you want to disprove any of these, it is extremely, extremely easy. Prove that the definition of digital that I am implying is faulty. Prove that the definition of a commodity that I am using is faulty. If you do that, the entire argument falls apart. Now, why do I want to articulate it like this? Well, that's because I believe that when people look at Steem and when they argue that Steem is worthless because it will not skyrocket in value due to the nature in which it is produced, what I believe they are failing to acknowledge is this reality. Steem is a digital commodity that is designed to back a stable digital currency. The goal is not to create a digital commodity that will skyrocket in value, which wasn't the goal of Bitcoin either. Now, it did accomplish that task because of its scarcity, because of its novelty, by the way, because of its uniqueness, its nature as a precedent. You know, it was the first digital commodity. It does have a capped supply, and it is produced in limited quantities. But I would argue that the goal was never to create a digital commodity that would skyrocket in value. The goals were much more far-reaching than that, far more ambitious than that. And the same is true of Steem. The goals are different, but equally as ambitious. And the primary goal was to design a digital commodity not unlike Bitcoin, but one that is designed to build distributed, decentralized apps, but also, just as importantly, to back a stable digital currency called Steem dollars. And so Steem dollars are a stable digital currency that are designed to be familiar and have low transaction costs. The familiarity of Steem dollars is accomplished by pegging it to the US dollar. But the reason that I don't include that information, that it's pegged to the US dollar, within the first principle is because it's a consequence of an intention. It wasn't the motivating factor. You know, these guys, in my opinion, were faced with a problem. You want to create a stable digital currency that people, and so it's a new thing. It's a thing completely out of the ether. It's a completely made up digital entity. And so how do you do that while also establishing a familiarity with it? That's a really hard problem. And the most sensible solution to that problem, which is a currency-specific problem, is you make it similar to the most popular currency in the world, that is the US dollar. However, if, for example, the yuan became the most popular currency in the world tomorrow, it is my belief that what we would pretty quickly do is go, all right, abandon the dollar peg, make it the yuan peg, because that's what people will be most familiar with, until at least, you know, and obviously if Steem dollars ever became the most popular currency in the world, which I'm certainly not banking on, I really couldn't care less if it does that. That's not the end goal. If that's the end goal, then I think people are misaligned with that, with those of the Steem and Steemit communities. But if that ever did happen, then yeah, they would abandon a peg to any currency. But as long as there is another currency out there that's more popular, then the Steem dollar should just remain pegged to that. That accomplishes the familiarity task. And then the low transaction cost, that's part of the utility of Steem dollars. Note, obviously, again, the goal of the Steem dollar is not to dramatically escalate in value, precisely the opposite. Its goal is to remain stable and hover around its pegged currency. And really all that I'm saying here is that the reason why America's wealth increased over time while it possessed a commodity-backed currency, a currency backed by gold, was not because gold skyrocketed in value during that time. That is the equivalent of saying that this entire system is only valuable if the underlying commodity dramatically increases in value over time. As far as I know, during the period which we used gold to back the dollar, the price of gold went up and down over time. That did not destroy the ability for our monetary system to deliver value to the population, to the users of that product. In fact, the use of that commodity and its ability to skyrocket in value was very dangerous to the system. And in fact, with the Great Depression, many people argue, and I actually believe it's true, that it was the withdrawal of gold from the American system. When you withdraw gold, when you decrease the supply of gold, you know, relative to the supply, demand goes up. If demand stays constant and you remove supply, the value goes up. And that was actually part of the problem that created the deep, Great Depression that lasted decades. So it's not as simple as whether or not Steem will go up in value. The real question is it designed to serve the greater function of maintaining this monetary system, for facilitating trade, and for creating a fair economy? Now finally, we have steam power. And on this, my views have kind of changed over time. So if you go back to one of my earlier videos, you'll see that I describe steam power as a form of money, which I suppose it technically is. It stores value, you can cash it out, it vests over a period of time. It's not highly liquid money, but I guess technically it can be thought of as money. However, I now believe that the better way to think about it, the more accurate way to think about it, is just that it's a point system that is backed by a digital commodity and that is used by the crowd to distribute influence within the ecosystem to individuals who demonstrate a commitment to the long-term health of the overall enterprise. The reason for the divergence is that I now believe that its utility as a point system, as an influential point system, is greater than its utility as a form of money. In fact, the system falls apart the moment steam power becomes more valuable as a form of money than it does as a way of distributing influence. This system only works if people care more about the influence that comes with steam power than they care about its ability to be converted into steam. That is, I believe, the strongest argument for the steam skeptics to take. It's a totally valid argument. If you come into this and you go, no, none of this works because nobody will want steam power more than they want steam, and that includes because steam can be converted into dollars. So if you have a lot of people coming in who go, I don't want steam, I don't want this steam power that I have, I would much rather have US dollars, so I'm going to power down. You're right, this whole thing will fall apart. I, however, believe that I certainly care more about steam power than I do about Steem or US dollars or Bitcoin. That's why I empathize with the thousands of users on Steem, on Steemit, who feel the same way, and why I agree with them that this enterprise will continue to grow and improve over time. However, if you don't see that, you may very well be right. And you shouldn't be involved in Steem and Steemit. I totally understand that. It's not my goal to force people who don't get it to be into it. You may very well be right. I happen to firmly disagree with you. However, it's my belief that the steam backing of steam power, that's what this really is. It's an illiquid digital derivative that is backed by a digital commodity so as to give individuals confidence in it. That is the real value that commodities serve to the monies that they back. They help establish confidence. The reason why the US government didn't start with fiat currency is because nobody would have had confidence or faith in it. They just print paper and hand it out to people. People be like, this is paper. And so the US government goes, no, it's a receipt for a commodity that you believe has value. And that's the same function that Steem provides in this system. Merely providing a point system that is connected to influence within the system would not be enough to establish faith and confidence in that point system. That's why Steem is used to back it. However, as I said before, if people decided, just like with the American monetary system, if people had decided that the gold that backed the US dollar was more valuable than the US dollars they were using, then the value of the dollar would have immediately crashed and everybody would have exchanged their US dollars for whatever gold they were able to get their hands on. The reason they didn't was because they felt that the US dollars were actually more valuable than the underlying commodity. And the same dynamic is here. The reason why people keep steam power is because they believe it to be more valuable than the underlying steam. And yes, if that dynamic ever changes, the whole system falls apart. And so if you see reasons why that could happen, what you should do is make a post about it on Steemit. We'll all upvote the crap out of it, and then we'll fix it.